Hi, this is Greta Maria Castellino. Welcome to the second module of Paper 4, Political Process in Maharashtra. The topic of this chapter is Regionalism Part 2, the Samyukta Maharashtra movement and its aftermath. This video lecture is strictly meant for understanding the concepts and clearing doubts of the distance learners enrolled in the Institute of Distance and Open Learning, IDOL, University of Mumbai. It is created solely and purely for academic purposes. The views and opinions expressed by the lecturer and the content developer are in his or her individual capacity. IDOL does not endorse any controversial or sensitive content. If the images, graphs, and maps are taken from online sources, they will be used only for academic purposes and not for personal use. The emergence of subnationalism, also described as regionalism, in India is a natural phenomenon. The linguistic aspirations of the people in this part of Western India found their most vocal manifestation in the demand for the Samyukta Maharashtra Union of all Marathi-speaking people. Unlike most other linguistic groups in India, the Marathi-speaking people had to struggle hard to fulfill their aspirations. This struggle has been described as the Samyukta Maharashtra movement. This movement was led by the Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti from 1956 to the year 1960. Maharashtra Congress contributed to this cause by exerting pressure on the party high command. These two forces together led to the formation of Maharashtra, the 15th state of the Union of India, on 1st May 1960. So, when did the demand for Samyukta Maharashtra emerge? The provinces in British India were formed on the basis of political expediency and administrative convenience. As a result, there were no linguistically homogeneous provinces prior to 1947, with a possible exception of Assam and Odisha. Their linguistic and regional aspirations were under restraint owing to the goal of national independence. The banner of linguistic provinces was raised as early as 1897 by Mahesh Prasad Narayan by demanding a separate province of Bihar. This was followed by the demand for the Odia-speaking province. In 1915, Lokmanya Tilak supported the plea for the linguistic reorganization of provinces in British India and the unification of the Marathi-speaking areas in Bombay and central provinces and Berar provinces. Vitthal Vaman Tamhankar, a Marathi literate, in an article Three Parts of Maharashtra, made a plea for the integration of the Marathi-speaking areas in Hyderabad state, along with those in Bombay and CP and Berar provinces. The Indian National Congress, at its Nagpur session in 1920, unanimously adopted a resolution on the linguistic reorganization of provinces. So now let's look at how did the concept of Samyukta Maharashtra crystallize. Acharya Vinoba Bhave, in an article Maharashtra Dharma, used the expression Samyukta Maharashtra and strongly advocated the unification of all Marathi-speaking areas. Mahamahopadhyay Dattovaman Potdar, in his presidential address to the Marathi Sahitya Sammelan in 1937, reiterated the demand for Samyukta Maharashtra. In the same year, the Legislative Assembly of CP and Berar adopted a unanimous resolution on the formation of Mahavidarbha. The most significant development was the Marathi Sahitya Sammelan at Belgaum in 1946. Gajanan Trimbak Madholkar, also known as G.T. Madholkar, in his presidential address, spelled the geographical composition of Samyukta Maharashtra. He made a strong plea to all Marathi-speaking leaders to join hands for the realization of Samyukta Maharashtra. A resolution on Samyukta Maharashtra was unanimously adopted. What is more significant is that a permanent body called the Samyukta Maharashtra Parishad was constituted to follow up the resolution. Shankarrao Deo, the veteran Gandhian leader and the then General Secretary of the All India Congress Committee AICC, was designated as the president of the Parishad. It was felt by the advocates of the unilingual provinces that the Indian National Congress was now in a position to fulfill its commitment of linguistic reorganization of provinces made as early as its 1920 session. The demand for Samyukta Maharashtra took the form of several events, and you see those events laid down in this slide. We will look at each of these one at a time in the following parts of the chapter. We will start with the Akola Pact, go on to discuss the Dar Commission report, certain deliberations in the Constituent Assembly, the JVP committee set up for reorganization of states, revival of the demand for linguistic reorganization of states, reactivation of Samyukta Maharashtra Parishad, the Nagpur Pact 1953, the recommendations of the State Reorganization Commission, the three-state formula prescribed, Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti, which was instrumental in the final formation of Maharashtra, and the performance of Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti in general elections of 1956 and BMC elections in 1957. Let's examine the Akola Pact now. Shankarrao Deo, the president of Samyukta Maharashtra Parishad, took an initiative in summoning a meeting of the senior leaders and other notables from western Maharashtra, that is Bombay province, and Vidarbha, CPA Berar province. These regions to plan a common strategy regarding the future of the Marathi-speaking areas. Consequent to the meeting held at Akola on 8 August 1947, a broad consensus was reached. This consensus is described as the Akola Pact. The text of the Akola Pact included that there shall be one province of United Maharashtra, which is Samyukta Maharashtra, with sub-provinces of Marathi-speaking areas, central provinces and Berar, commonly styled Mahavidarbha, and West Maharashtra, with separate legislatures and cabinets for the sub-provinces and with specified subjects under their jurisdiction. The province shall have the right to create other sub-provincial units whenever found necessary and feasible. There shall be one governor and one deputy governor for the whole province, and a provincial legislature shall be composed of representatives of the people on the basis of population. The elections to the sub-provincial legislatures will be held separately. Two high courts shall function independently for the two sub-provinces except for a common tribunal set up for specific jurisdiction. There shall be a common public service commission for the whole province. There was also a caveat to establish a separate Mahavidarbha if the above aim of the United Maharashtra was not feasible. The signatories to the Akola Pact were Shankarrao Deo, M.S. Ane, P.S. Deshmukh, Shri Narayan Agarwal, D.V. Gokhale, Brijlal Biani, D.W. Potdar, G.T. Mudholkar, S.K. Wankhede, Pandharinath Patil, P. Raka, Ramrao Deshmukh, D.R. Gadgil, Gopalrao Khedkar, Pramila Oke, and G.R. Kulkarni. It is significant to note that neither Bhausaheb Hire nor Keshavrao Jilhe nor Y.B. Sawan were signatories. Marathwada's omission was due to the fact that it was a part of Nizam's Hyderabad state until now. In this regard, we'll also see some of the Constituent Assembly deliberations that took place. Prime Minister Nehru, while conceding the linguistic principle, observed that first things must come first, and the first thing is the security and stability of India. Gandhiji too justified the reluctance to enforce linguistic redistribution owing to the present depressing atmosphere. Gandhiji regretted that everyone thinks of himself, no one thinks of the whole of India. If each province began to look upon itself as a separate sovereign unit, India's independence would lose its meaning, and with it would vanish the freedom of various units as well. Sardar Patel condemned the champions of linguistic states as assassins of nationalism. Dr. Ambedkar expressed apprehension that linguistic provinces would result in the creation of many nations within India and would be fatal to the unity of India. The national leadership was aware of the fact that India was, at the best, a nation in making, and what prevailed was not unity in diversity, but unity in distress. The clamor inspired by linguism was difficult to resist, and the Constituent Assembly was compelled to appoint a linguistic province commission known as the Dar Commission on 17 June 1948. This commission observed that nationalism and subnationalism are two emotional experiences which grow at each other's expense. Indian nationalism was nascent and could not withstand a strain. In conclusion, we see that the Constituent Assembly was not in favor of the united province comprising of sub-provinces. Thus, the agreement reached by the Akola Pact failed to make any impact on the deliberations of the Constituent Assembly. What followed was the setting up of the JVP committee and the revival for the demand for linguistic reorganization. Within 8 days of the publication of the Dar Commission report, the All India Congress Committee, at its Jaipur session in 1948, appointed a high-level committee consisting of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and Pattabhi Sitaramaiah. And these are the acronyms that you see in JVP committee. The JVP committee submitted its report on 1st April 1949. The recommendations were in essence the same as those of the Dar Commission. The committee rightly asserted that the language was not only a binding force but also a separating one. The committee, however, admitted that if public sentiment was insistent and overwhelming, we as Democrats should have to submit to it, but subject to certain limitations in this regard to the good of India as a whole. The committee recommended that Andhra should be created as a separate province. The supporters of the linguistic provinces publicly welcomed the JVP report and continued to press their claims and counterclaims. Nothing tangible, however, came out of it, as the Government of India was engaged in the tasks of integration of princely states, the rehabilitation of refugees, and the consolidation of the gains of independence. Nehru preferred to postpone the issue and to take up the matter at a suitable moment when the time is ripe for it. However, the regional as well as national non-Congress parties, especially the communists, whipped up the agitation and made the demand an important part of their election campaign in the south. In Andhra, the agitation reached a climax in December 1952 when Potti Sriramulu, a veteran congressman, undertook a fast unto death, died, and within 4 days after his death, the Prime Minister announced the government's decision to form a state of Andhra by the partition of Madras on 19th December 1952. The formation of Andhra on the 1st of November 1953 led to the demand for linguistic states in other parts of the country. The Government of India, in the face of agitation all over the country, appointed the States Reorganization Commission (SRC) in December 1953 under the chairmanship of Justice Fazl Ali. Pandit H.N. Kunzru and Sardar K.M. Panikkar were its members. This issue threatened the stability of governments in several states. The Congress Working Committee issued a directive and prohibited members of the party from joining any agitational front for linguistic states. Following suit of what happened in Andhra Pradesh, we see a reactivation of the Samyukta Maharashtra Parishad in the state of Maharashtra, followed by the Nagpur Pact in the year 1953. So, on the eve of the visit of the States Reorganization Commission, the leaders from the Marathi-speaking areas met at Nagpur to prepare a joint memorandum. However, the Brahmin Marwari leadership from Nagpur and the Bombay Pradesh Congress Committee distanced themselves from the deliberations. An excerpt from the agreement adopted in Nagpur is what we are going to see now. The state shall be formed of the continuous Marathi-speaking areas with Bombay city as the capital, and the continuous areas would include the present Bombay, Madhya Pradesh and Hyderabad states. There will be no enclaves within the limits and boundaries of this state, and it would be called Maharashtra or Marathi Pradesh. Subject to requirements of a single government, the allocation of funds for expenditure over different units would be in proportion of their population. However, in view of the undeveloped conditions of Marathwada, special attention shall be given to promote development of that area. A report on this behalf shall be placed before the State Assembly every year. The High Court of the new state will have its principal seat at Bombay and second seat at Nagpur. The bench of Nagpur will ordinarily function for the Mahavidarbh area. The government shall officially shift to Nagpur for a definite period, and at least one session of the state legislature shall be held every year in Nagpur. And since then, we know that the winter session of the Maharashtra Vidhan Sabha is held in Nagpur. Signatories of the pact were R.K. Patil, P.K. Deshmukh, Bhausaheb Hire, Devkanand Narayan, Yashwantrao Chavan, Pandharinath Patil, Ramrao Deshmukh, Gopalrao Khedkar, Sheshrao Wankhede and Nana Kunte. The signatories to the Akola Pact, Ane, Biyani, Ranka Shankarrao Deo, etc., were conspicuous by their absence. As a matter of fact, Ani and others from Nagpur region demanded Mahavidarbh. The leaders from Marathwada participated in the deliberations, but were not signatories. None from the Bombay Pradesh Congress Committee participated in these deliberations. Consequent to the Nagpur Pact, a joint memorandum was prepared by the Samyukta Maharashtra Parishad. It made a plea for the inclusion of Nagvidarbh and Marathwada in the memorandum submitted to the SRC in 1954. The Bombay Pradesh Congress Committee, led by S.K. Patil, was opposed to the formation of Samyukta Maharashtra and demanded a separate state for the city of Bombay. The Maharashtrian congressmen in Bombay city were opposed to this stand of the BPCC and formed the Congress Jana Parishad (CJP) in 1954. The purpose of the CJP was to present testimony before the SRC in favor of Samyukta Maharashtra and the establishment of its capital of Bombay. Now let's look at the recommendations of the SRC and how the struggle for Samyukta Maharashtra continued. The report of the SRC was published on 10th October 1955. The SRC had recommended a bilingual state of Bombay consisting of all Gujarati-speaking areas and all Marathi-speaking areas except Belgaum and Karwar districts of the former Bombay state and Nagvidar. It proposed the inclusion of the border areas in Mysore state. The SRC recommended the formation of a separate state of Mahavidar. The recommendations of the SRC caused an unprecedented outburst of popular resentment all over Maharashtra. The recommendations were condemned as a case of indigenous colonialism. The MPCC constantly rejected the balanced bilingual Bombay state proposed by the SRC and suggested to the Congress Working Committee by a resolution passed on 22nd October 1955 that if it is not convenient to establish Samyukta Maharashtra right now, a bigger bilingual Bombay state comprising of all Marathi speaking areas and all Gujarati speaking areas should be formed. It also added a crucial and controversial provision that Gujarat, if it wished, could exercise an option to leave the composite state after 5 years. This suggestion was immediately rejected by the GPCC, which is the Gujarat Pradesh Congress Committee. The GPCC was aware of the fact that Gujaratis would be heavily outnumbered in such a state, and the Maharashtrian majority would compel the Gujaratis to exercise their option, leaving Bombay city behind. The GPCC, having such foresight, recommended the establishment of Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Bombay city as separate political units. The Congress High Command set aside the recommendations of the SRC and proposed a three-state formula. Prime Minister Nehru announced that Bombay would be a centrally administered territory for 5 years. Maharashtra would be formed including Vidarbha and Marathwada, and Gujarat would comprise of Kutch and Saurashtra. The MPCC passed a resolution which gave any responsible congressman permission to relinquish, if necessary, his official position in the government in order to openly support Samyukta Maharashtra. Bhausaheb Hire, D.K. Kunte and C.D. Deshmukh accordingly submitted their resignations. Prime Minister Nehru intervened and asked these leaders to not press for acceptance of their resignations. Hire and Kunte withdrew their resignation. C.D. Deshmukh, however, did not withdraw his resignation and accused the Prime Minister of cavalier and unconstitutional behavior. This development resulted in unprecedented popular unrest and breaking out of riots all over the state. In January 1956, demonstrators were fired upon by the police at Flora Fountain in Mumbai. It was subsequently renamed as Hutatma Chowk in the memory of the 105 martyrs who lost their life during this police firing for the cause of Samyukta Maharashtra. The Congress High Command was forced to take into consideration the popular disapproval of the three-unit formula. It accepted bigger bilingual Bombay state suggested by the MPCC. The bilingual Bombay state came into existence on 1st November 1956. Nothing was really settled, and the new state was greeted by the eruption for linguistic provincial opposition movement in Maharashtra as well as Gujarat. The demand for Samyukta Maharashtra persisted among the people of Maharashtra. The dissatisfaction in Nagvidal also increased. The decision to establish a bilingual Bombay state implied the selection of a new leader of the Congress Legislative Party. The Congress High Command suggested to the state leaders to elect Morarji Desai unanimously or with near unanimity as the first Chief Minister of the bilingual Bombay state. Bhau Sahib Hire insisted on a contest. Thereupon, Desai withdrew from the contest and gave his support to Chavan. During the entire course of negotiations, Chavan had impressed the High Command as a dissenting but disciplined congressman. The Congress Legislative Party elected Chavan as its leader on 16 October 1956. Hire was humbled by Chavan with the support of the BPCC, the GPCC, and the newly added areas, as well as a small section of Maratha leadership. As such, Chavan was looked upon as the protege of Morarji Desai, and his leadership was resented by the Maratha leadership. As the Chief Minister of bilingual Bombay State, Chavan dutifully pronounced Big Bilingual Bombay State as the final solution to the reorganization question. After the emergence of Y.B. Chavan, the Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti took over the Samyukta Maharashtra Parishad. As the Samyukta Maharashtra Parishad became a defunct body, after its ambitions were frustrated by the SRC and the Government of India, the leaders of the non-Congress political parties in Maharashtra felt the need to have another organization to channelize the popular discomfort and realize the objective of the Samyukta Maharashtra. The initiative in this regard was taken by Maharashtra units of the PSP and the CPI. The Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti was established on 6th February 1956 at Pune. The SMP was dissolved by the President on 10th February 1956. Sorry, there's a typo on the slide. It should be established on 6th February and SMP was dissolved on the 10th of Feb. The SMS, which is Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti, was a joint front of the non-Congress political parties as well as independent persons. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was opposed to the idea of Samyukta Maharashtra. However, after his death, his followers joined the SMS to make possible political gains. The working of the SMS was dominated by S.A. Dange, P.K. Atre, and S.M. Joshi. The BJS, the HMS, the SP, the KKP, etc. were minor partners within the SMS. The number of constituent parties of the SMS was around 11 by the end of 1956. The SMS had total support of the vernacular press, the entire social pyramid, and economic hierarchy from the labor to the Maharashtrian industrialists. And after this followed the 1957 general elections, which was the second general elections. So few months after the bigger bilingual Bombay state came into existence, the elections were conducted. Chief Minister Chavan had advised the congressmen to abide by the will of the nation and make the bilingual state a success. On the other hand, the Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti made a formation of the Samyukta Maharashtra as its one-point program. The SMS was converted into an electoral alliance in September 1956. The constituent parties of the SMS retained their own identities, and they fought the 1957 general elections under their own banner. The allocation of constituencies among the component groups in SMS was a process plagued with controversies. However, the compulsion of the public opinion forces the parties to arrive at a working agreement. At the root of the unity of the SMS was the unprecedented unity of the electorate, which compelled the parties to stick together. The electoral understanding among the constituent parties was restricted to Bombay City and western Maharashtra. No understanding could be reached in Vidarbha and Marathwada, and these parties contested the elections on their own. The election campaign was very hectic. Very violent propaganda was carried on by the Samiti in the press, on platforms, and in processions. No meetings of the then Congress passed off peacefully. Stones were thrown, abusive language was used, and anti-Congress slogans were raised, cars were smashed, and meetings were disrupted. The posters of the 105 victims of police firing near Hutatma Chowk were exhibited to arouse popular sentiment. In 1957 was a kind of the elections were a kind of a referendum on the issue of bilingual Bombay state. Although the Congress managed to secure a majority in the bilingual Bombay state, it suffered a massive defeat in Maharashtra. Several prominent members of Chauhan's cabinet from western Maharashtra, such as Nimbalkar, Tapse, Sathe, and Fakhi, were defeated. P.K. Sawant, D.K. Kunte were also defeated. Two ministers in Nehru's cabinet from Maharashtra, Pataskar and Bhonsle, were defeated as well. The other prominent Maratha leader, Keshavrao Zedhe, who had defected from the PWP to the Congress, however, was elected because the SMS had decided not to oppose him. Everyone had expected that the Samiti would fare well in this election, but the actual results surpassed even the most optimistic calculations of the Samiti leaders. The role of caste was overshadowed by the emotionally charged atmosphere in Maharashtra. The electorate voted for the SMS candidates irrespective of caste considerations. In conclusion, we see that the defeat of the SMS in Vidarbha and Marathwada has been attributed to a variety of reasons. The SMS was neither popular nor active in United Vidarbha. Vidarbha units of PSP and BJS were opposed to Samyukta Maharashtra as well as SMS. On the other hand, the people of Marathwada had wholeheartedly supported Samyukta Maharashtra. However, the SMS failed to make substantial gains in this region because of the failure to forge unity. Finally, the outcome of the second general election initiated a process of rethinking and the desirability of a bilingual Bombay state when the people are vehemently opposed to it. It's now time to analyze the difficulties in the formation of Samyukta Maharashtra. The agitating Marathi-speaking people were subjected to the police brutalities, hundreds of activists and their leadership was imprisoned. But that did not break the spirit of the people, and they taught a lesson to the Congress party, which was responsible for the injustice. The probable factors which did create difficulties in the formation of Samyukta Maharashtra were self-creation and rest were the outcome of the prejudices of others. We shall look at a few of the factors now. The first one is lack of cohesion. An influential section in Nagpur aspired for a separate Vidarbha and the BPCC was opposed to the formation of Samyukta Maharashtra. Second, the role of Congress High Command. The High Command persisted with the British policy of divide and rule. They proposed a balanced bilingual Bombay state wherein the Marathi-speaking population would be the largest group but not large enough to gain control over the state politics, and thus the party high command could perpetuate its reign. The third factor is Bombay's strategic importance. Bombay city was not only highly industrialized but was also the commercial capital of India. The industry, trade, and commerce was controlled by the non-Maharashtrians, whereas the proletariat class was Maharashtrian. Thus, the capitalist class favored a bilingual state and preferred the city to be a union territory. Samyukta Maharashtra less Bombay city was as backward as most other parts of India. The Congress High Command blackmailed the MPCC by proposing the three-state formula and forced it to accept the bigger bilingual Bombay state. The next factor is demand for a separate Nagvidar. Nagpur was the state capital and had all the political advantages and status accompanying that. The leadership in the region had a significant say in the politics of the state. Initially, Ane Biyani Ranka were in favor of a sub-state of Vidarbha within the state of Maharashtra. Later, they put forth their demand for Mahavidarbha, comprising not only 8 districts of Madhya Pradesh but also Marathi-speaking areas of Hyderabad and the adjoining districts of northern Maharashtra. They claimed that such a state would be an economically viable state. They pleaded that what was wrong in having 2 Marathi-speaking states rather than one? They were not a party to the Nagpur Pact and submitted a separate memorandum to the SRC in 1954. The SRC was convinced and recommended the establishment of Mahavidarbha. Thus, the aspirations of the leadership in Vidarbha to have a separate state was a major hurdle in the realization of Samyukta Maharashtra. Next, the distinct Dakhani culture of Hyderabad. The princely state of Hyderabad had developed a distinct Dakhani culture of its own over a period of time. The people and the leadership in Marathwada region had felt neglected in the Hyderabad state and were keen to merge Marathwada in Samyukta Maharashtra. The caste factor. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the architect of the Indian Constitution, was opposed to the idea of unilingual states in general and Samyukta Maharashtra in particular because in such states a dominant caste group would emerge and threaten the interests of the weaker caste groups. Thus, in Samyukta Maharashtra, the Maratha caste group would emerge as dominant and the interest of the Dalits would be in jeopardy. The Brahmin upper class leadership too was initially apprehensive about Samyukta Maharashtra as it meant the emergence of Maratha Raj. Next factor we shall look at is the Morarji Desai factor. Morarji Desai, the then Chief Minister of Bombay State, was in favor of a bigger or balanced bilingual Bombay State and was opposed to Samyukta Maharashtra. He had ordered the ruthless crushing of the agitations and had issued the shoot to kill orders to the police. Desai wielded enormous influence with the Congress High Command and the SRC. The balanced bilingual Bombay state proposed by the SRC was the one that Desai had suggested. When the opposition to his leadership was growing, Desai managed to install Yashwantrao Chavan by defeating Bhau Sahib Hire, the hardliner on the Samyukta Maharashtra issue. The last factor we shall analyze now is inadequacy of leadership. The Samyukta Maharashtra Parishad, headed by Shankar Rao Dev, was totally inactive after the submission of the memorandum to the SRC. The lack of leadership, lack of courage in the leadership working at cross purposes, and the leadership antagonistic to Samyukta Maharashtra were formidable hurdles. Even the working of the Samiti was not smooth, but the unprecedented unity of the Marathi speaking people forced the constituent parties to stick together till the objective of Samyukta Maharashtra was realized. During the months which followed the creation of a bigger bilingual Bombay state, the leaders of the Congress drifted inevitably towards the reconsideration of their early decision. The massive defeat of the Congress in the second general elections was followed by a large-scale defeat in the elections to the local bodies. Opposition of the BPCC to the Samyukta Maharashtra led to the capture of Bombay Municipal Corporation by the Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti in May 1957. 3 out of 5 district local boards in Marathwada were also captured by Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti. Within the party, the dissenting but disciplined congressmen were becoming more and more outspoken in their demand for the dissolution of the Bombay state. The Congress ministry in the state made a plea to the High Command to reconsider the issue. Pandit Nehru was greeted with black flags on his way to Mahabaleshwar. This event made Nehru rethink over the wisdom of the decision. Chavan succeeded in convincing the High Command the futility of the big bilingual experiment which was ruining the Congress in both Maharashtra and Gujarat. The Parliamentary Board of the SMS resolved in July 1959 that people have the right to unseat a constitutionally elected government before completion of its term by peaceful, direct action, if it forfeits the confidence of the people. In August 1959, a month after the threat of direct action, the Congress High Command decided to reconsider the issue of reorganization. In 1959, the Nagpur Pradesh Congress Committee resolved that if bilingual Bombay state was to be divided, it should be into 3 parts: Maharashtra, Gujarat and Mahavidarbha. Nagpur Pradesh Congress Committee turned to Ane, the most renowned champion of Mahavidarbha, to be its candidate in the by-election for the parliamentary seat from Nagpur in January 1959. He won as the Congress candidate. However, the Congress High Command was not in favor of the establishment of Mahavidarbha. Dr. Khedkar, the president of the Vidarbha Pradesh Congress Committee, was a consistent and active advocate of Samyukta Maharashtra. Majority of MLAs and MPs from Vidarbha and Vidarbha Pradesh Congress Committee declared themselves in favor of joining Samyukta Maharashtra. The demand for a separate Nagvidarbha lost edge and reconciliation became possible. Nagvidarbha had to be reconciled to Samyukta Maharashtra rather than forced into it. The congressmen from Nagvidarbha were in a strong bargaining position. Chavan publicly pledged to implement the Nagpur Pact, including the provision for a session per year of the state legislature. The government agreed to incorporate into the Bombay Reorganization Act the provision for the establishment of a High Court seat at Nagpur. Of the 14 ministerial positions in Chauhan's first cabinet, 5 were held by politicians from Nagpur and Vidarbha. Gopalrao Khedkar from Vidarbha was elected as the president of the Maharashtra Pradesh Congress Committee in 1960. Yashwantrao Chauhan displayed the highest quality of political skills in overcoming the opposition to Samyukta Maharashtra from the Nagvidarbha region, as well as winning over the support of the Bombay Pradesh Congress Committee. The Congress Working Committee gave its approval to the bifurcation in December 1959. The Bombay Reorganization Bill was passed by the Union Parliament in April 1960. The formation of Maharashtra was associated with Chauhan, and that elevated his position in Maharashtra politics. Chauhan emerged as the supreme and undisputed leader of Maharashtra. The new state was ushered in on 1st May 1960 by the late Prime Minister Nehru. This gesture on the part of Nehru pacified the widespread anti-Congress sentiment in Maharashtra. Late G.T. Madholkar, the editor of Tarun Bharat, had asked a very pertinent question to Yashwantrao Chauhan, the first Chief Minister of Maharashtra, that राजा कुणाचे, मराठीचे की मराठ्याचे? Translated to English, it would be, whose rule is it going to be? The Marathi speaking people or the Maratha caste? This was the objective forecast of the pattern of Maharashtra politics that would emerge after the formation of the state. In the case of Maharashtra, the Maratha Kunbi caste group, which is the most numerous, ruled Maharashtra by penetrating in the Congress party. Thus, the most obvious and the most significant consequence of the formation of Maharashtra would be the interlocking of the dominant party and the dominant caste. Thus, the Congress, that is the dominant party, controlled by the dominant class within the dominant caste, ruled Maratha for over 3 decades till 1995. The fallout of the formation of the Samyukta Maharashtra can be summed up under various points, the first of it being the formation of unilingual states. The bifurcation of the bilingual Bombay state meant the formation of 2 unilingual states for the Marathi and the Gujarati speaking people. In the recent history of Maharashtra, it was for the first time the Marathi speaking population was brought within a single political administrative unit and had their own Raj, in which they constituted the absolute majority and their writ prevailed. Like other unilingual states in Maharashtra too, the language of the masses Marathi was accorded the status of the official language of the state. The regional language included in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution became the official language and as such the medium of higher education and administration. Primacy has been accorded to Marathi even in recruitment through the MPSC, which is Maharashtra Public Service Commission, which set question papers only in Marathi in 1991, though the candidates were permitted to answer in English. The second point we shall discuss under the aftermath of the formation of Samyukta Maharashtra is the consolidation of Marathas. Yashwantrao Chauhan's role in the formation of Maharashtra elevated his stature. He became the undisputed leader of the Marathas in particular and the Bahujan Samaj in general. Chauhan wanted to establish undisputed rule of the Marathas in the name of the Bahujan Samaj. Therefore, signals were sent to the Maratha leaders in the non-Congress parties that our Raj has come in being and strengthen my hand to wipe out the urban middle-class Brahminical leadership, which demanded the constituent parties of the Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti. The myth of the Congress as the party of the rural masses and the Bahujan Samaj created by Yashwantrao Chavan was so strong that the non-Congress parties were almost wiped out from the rural areas in the post-1960 period. The Maratha leaders responded to the invitation of Chavan very favorably. In the period between 1960 to 1962, about 40 MLAs, several MPs, and hundreds of workers and thousands of rank and file swelled the Congress. The PSP, the PWP, the CPI were worst affected as the prominent leaders defected to the Congress. The Congress Jana Parishad (CJP) returned to the Congress fold. Thus, the consolidation of the Marathas within the Congress fold added to their hegemony, as indicated by the fact that they cornered 75 to 80% of the positions of power within the party and the government. The formation of the Samyukta Maharashtra enabled the dominant caste to fulfill its political aspirations as well as perpetuate its dominance. This led to a reaction in the form of the non-Maratha alliance constituted by OBCs, SCs, STs and minority religious groups. The efforts in the direction of such a broad alliance described as the Bahujan Samaj is in its infancy. But in any case, the Maratha dominance is increasingly challenged. The most significant development has been the Shiv Sena BJP alliance securing power in 1995 and Manohar Joshi, a Brahmin by caste, becoming the chief minister. The third point we shall discuss now is the consolidation of the Congress. The Congress government led by Chavan did not allow the popular discontent to grow on any issue, whether of bonus or of dearness allowance or of martyrs memorial or the Maharashtra-Mysore boundary dispute. Chavan actively assisted the Samiti in the erection of martyrs memorial and paid rich tributes to them. He took the leaders of the opposition in confidence on the Maharashtra-Mysore border dispute and forcefully pleaded for the inclusion of the disputed areas in Maharashtra. The unification of the four Pradesh Congress committees of Nagpur, Vidarbha, Marathwada and Maharashtra was brought about in June 1960. It was argued that to bring about real emotional integration of Maharashtra, it was necessary not only to bring about unification of the state, but also of the party in power. The Congress won all the three by-elections held after the formation of unilingual state of Maharashtra. Then followed the disintegration of the Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti. The tremendous success in the second general elections was followed by the capture of local self-governing bodies, including the Bombay Municipal Corporation by the SMS. In spite of the tremendous electoral success, the SMS failed to evolve as a powerful political force in Maharashtra because the SMS was far from a homogeneous combination of political parties. The SMS suffered heavily because of power politics among its constituent parties and the scramble for position and patronage. The Communist Party had risen from relative obscurity to leadership because of the active participation in the Samiti. They wished to make it a permanent organization and they took a lead in drafting a new constitution for the Samiti. However, the Bharatiya Janasangh (BJS) was opposed to this line of action. They felt that the SMS was formed for the limited purpose of struggling for the formation of Samyukta Maharashtra. Any attempt to increase its scope and thus to base it on a permanent footing is contrary to the very nature of the SMS. The PSP, though was the largest party in the SMS, was divided on the organizational issues. The principal parties of the SMS, the CPI and the PWP, had also considerably weakened because of the defections to the Congress after the formation of Maharashtra. The process of disintegration of the SMS started by the exit of the BJS in 1958. This was followed by the CJP returning to the Congress in December 1959. The Kamble faction of the RPI severed relations with the SMS. The disillusioned leadership of the PSP on the topic of the Mysore-Maharashtra border dispute as the scope of SMS decided to then leave the SMS in May 1960. The Mazdoor Kisan Party of Khadilkar and Mohite decided to merge with the Congress at their Karad session in October 1960. We also saw the weakening of the Praja Socialist Party. It had tried very hard to consolidate its organization. However, after the formation of Maharashtra, the number of defections from the PSP to Congress was the largest. In June 1960, it unsuccessfully led the strike of the central government employees. It suffered serious reverses in the Bombay Municipal Corporation elections held in March 1961. All these amounted to demoralization of the PSP's rank and file. Thus emerged the one-party dominance system of the Congress again in Maharashtra. The third general elections of 1962 was the first to be held after the formation of the unilingual state of Maharashtra. There was an atmosphere of popular satisfaction. However, the Nagvidarbha issue was live in some parts of Vidarbha. In Maharashtra, the third general elections of 1962 was a popular ratification of the creation of Samyukta Maharashtra. The election results indicated that the performance of the Congress was better than even the partisan optimism had hoped for. All other parties were heavily defeated. If the 1957 general elections was the political victory of the SMS, the 1962 general elections was the political defeat of the SMS. The election results revealed the dominance of Congress in Maharashtra. The Congress party secured 41 of the 44 Lok Sabha seats and 215 of the 264 Vidhan Sabha seats. It secured 25 of the 26 seats in Western Maharashtra and the Bombay city, wherein it had secured only 4 seats in 1957. In the prestigious Bombay North contest, V.K. Krishna Menon defeated J.B. Kriplani, an independent candidate supported by all non-Congress parties. The Congress party secured all parliamentary seats in Marathwada. In the Vidhan Sabha elections, the Congress party secured 137 of the 159 seats in Western Maharashtra and Bombay city, where it had secured only 46 seats in 1957. The defeat of the Congress and the victory of the NVAS in Nagpur in 1962 had shown that the Vidarbha movement was still active in Nagpur city. All other parties, including BJS, failed to register any electoral success. Almost all prominent leaders of the non-Congress parties were defeated. But another aftermath of the formation of Samyukta Maharashtra was the intensification of caste rivalries. The formation of the Samyukta Maharashtra meant replacement of the Bharji-Sethji dominance in Maharashtra and the dominance by the Maratha dominance. As already noted, the Maratha Kunbi castes together constitute about 40% of the population, but have usurped over 75% of the power positions. In other words, the whole cake was with the Marathas and the crumbs were distributed among other constituents of the Bhajan Samaj, otherwise described as the other backward castes. Next, we see regional patriotism, which helped the emergence of political parties whose base is local. V.K. Krishna Menon had predicted that the development of regional horizontal parties would spell disintegration and inevitable prospect of loss of national sovereignty. A challenge was posed to the Congress by the emergence of the Shiva Sena. It had successfully exploited the regional and communal sentiments to make a headway in the name of the past glory of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Shiv Sena, in alliance with the BJP, posed a serious challenge to the Congress dominance in 1990 and shattered the same in 1995. Thus, the regional patriotism cum communalism triumphed after 35 years of the formation of the state. So finally, we'll also study regional chauvinism as an aftermath of the formation of Samyukta Maharashtra. Linguistic states breed regional chauvinism. The state governments face pressure from regional parties and politicians to accord preferential treatment to sons of the soil in employment and jobs. A number of states have issued directives to reserve jobs for the local people. In almost all the states, the political parties are using the presence of a large number of outsiders as a stick to beat their rivals and attempt to make political capital of the issue. Shiv Sena took upon the responsibility of ensuring that such directives were implemented. Shiv Sena has a front organization called Sthanik Lokadhikar Samiti, which ensures preferential treatment to the sons of the soil in matter of employment. This brings us to the end of this chapter called Regionalism Part 2, wherein we study the formation of Samyukta Maharashtra. Thank you for attending this lecture. Keep watching our upcoming sessions.